Disturbing scenes on our streets, triggering calls to the WAVE troubleshooters alleging patient dumping by local hospitals. Two different $2 million plus patient dumping jury verdicts recently in Kentucky caught our eye. But what really got our attention was where calls to our newsroom led us when we began following up on the complaints. This story begins December 1st at 5 p.m. with a phone call to our newsroom from a horrified University Hospital employee claiming security had just wheeled a woman all the way out to the corner of Hancock and Ali, just off hospital property, dumped the elderly woman out of the wheelchair on the sidewalk, and left. Minutes later, we shot video of her, still in a soiled hospital gown and slippers, breathing hard under a blanket placed over her in 36-degree weather, her stuff in a bag next to her. The employee claimed she sees this a lot. So I started watching, and on December 16th at 7 p.m., 35 degrees outside, I record 3 security guards surrounding an elderly woman with a walker, slowly escorting her out of the emergency room. She can't move fast. It takes several minutes to make it all the way to the same corner of Hancock and Ali. After they have her across the street, off the hospital property, the security guards turn around and go back. When they clear, I catch up to her, and she says she can't breathe.
They told me that I couldn't stay on the premises. Amen.
Were you in there as a patient?
Well, I needed to be a patient because I'm sick.
What's wrong with you?
I've got COPD. I got diabetes.
So they wouldn't even treat you?
The doctor talked to me for 1 minute.
And they told you what?
That I had to leave.
What reason did he give you?
He didn't give me a reason.
She tells me she's homeless.
I've got to go because I'm hurting. I'm in pain.
I was in a car crash, and it completely shattered my hip and pelvis. Right here, I got like 30-something screwed.
Matthew Hauber and his mother claim a similar story. They met us in front of Wayside Mission in the spot where they say he was dumped in October.
Anywhere, and they said, well, we can't find a rehab right now.
Linda Hauber said when Norton Hospital told her they had a room lined up for Matthew at Wayside, she checked it out.
I called Wayside Christian Mission and just to confirm, and they said no. They said we can't do that. We can't. You know, they have beds and they help them find jobs and stuff, but we don't take medically needy people. We don't do that. And
then she says she had a conference call with the hospital staff.
the social worker said we're going to take him to a shelter, and I said which one, and they said Wayside Christian Mission. And I said, well, I know that's not true because I called them and they don't take him. And then the lady said, the social worker said, well, that's history. Let's think of something else.
Hauber says the next day, her son was unloaded from a transport vehicle on the curb in the rain on Jackson Street in front of Wayside.
I thought they've dumped my garbage. I have to put out to the curb. That's how they dumped my son, like garbage.
Linda Hauber said she was in no shape to care for him at home, and she died after this interview.
They put all their stuff on the sidewalk over there, or they dump them off over here on the sidewalk and get back in that vehicle and get out here just as fast as they can.
Wayside staffer Perry Lane helped Matthew out of the rain and says he witnesses the same kind of thing dozens of times per year from hospitals as far away as eastern Kentucky. He says they're often lied to about the medical treatment they'll receive at the shelter.
What's the worst physical shape you've seen somebody in who was dumped? This guy here was pretty bad.
Paralyzed. People that can't walk, that are totally relied on a wheelchair. Take them out, put them in the wheelchair, throw all their stuff on the and take off.
Wayside's Chief Operating Officer Nina Mosley tells me it's not uncommon. She says they're not trained medically, and sometimes they take patients right back to the hospitals.
How can you dump people? These are human beings. How can you just dump them and leave them? It doesn't make any sense to me. It's unhuman, man.
We detail these incidents with dates and times to both Norton and University hospitals. Norton Healthcare Senior Vice President Renee Murphy responded in an email that says, in order to safeguard the privacy of patients and in compliance with HIPAA, we are not permitted to discuss specifics regarding a patient's case. There are several details to this case that may not have been communicated to you by the family. As Mr. Hauber has not signed a HIPAA release of information form, we will not be able to share those details with you. University Hospital Public Relations Director David MacArthur replied, "They appear to be working on behalf of U of L Hospital. Unfortunately, the images that were provided by WAVE do not reveal enough information to track down additional details or identify whether the individuals on either day sought care from any of our team." What is heartbreaking for U of L Health staff is that we often encounter situations where patients need assistance beyond medical care. As the community's safety net hospital, the challenges are particularly even more acute when providing health care to the unhoused population of Metro Louisville. Community resources are limited, and even when they are available, many individuals that may benefit from those resources still refuse assistance. The Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, known as EMTALA, was passed in 1986 as a federal anti-dumping law. It mandates patients who present to a hospital emergency department must undergo an appropriate medical screening examination by a physician to determine whether they have an emergency medical condition. If they do, they must be stabilized and treated, and an appropriate transfer may take place to another facility with adequate capabilities.
Juries take the hospital's obligations to treat emergency patients very, very seriously.
Attorney Hans Poppy knows that firsthand. He won a $2.3 million patient dumping verdict, most of that in punitive damages, after his client, who was coming to a Lexington hospital by ambulance with a cardiac emergency, was turned away and directed to another hospital.
Juries don't like to punish hospitals.
There aren't many verdicts in Kentucky history favoring plaintiffs in alleged patient dumping cases, but this one is interesting. A $1.5 million verdict awarded in Fayette County to a difficult patient with a history of ER visits, dumped by a hospital, rolled outside in a wheelchair with taxi fare, and hours later, the man was dead of an untreated ulcer. After being reversed on appeal, another jury socked the hospital for $1.45 million.
So what that tells us is if a jury hears a case and they believe that there has been an EMTALA violation where a patient has been dumped or abandoned by the hospital, they really get upset.
Dude, like, I'm worthless, man. We're throwaway. We're garbage, you know?
Now, I was contacted this week by a police officer who worked off-duty at University Hospital who says she emailed U of L Health CEO Tom Miller on March 1st about this issue and what she was witnessing, and she says she was then informed she would no longer be working there. I asked U of L about that. They say the officer was concerned about the same things they are, and they're collaborating to increase community resources for the at-risk populations. As for being let go after her email, U of L would only say that she was employed by a third-party security service. Welcome to Wave News at 6. I'm John Bowl.
And I'm Myra Ansari. We begin with a follow-up to the Wave troubleshooters' investigation of a hospital patient dumping complaint last June that has stirred a lot of reaction and more complaints.
Tonight, the mystery unfolding after a woman is taken by ambulance to a hospital one day and found dead at the bus stop in front of the hospital 2 days later. You see it when you drive down Poplar Level Road, next to the bus stop, in front of Norton Audubon Hospital, a pink cross with the name Amber Hall.
She was our firstborn niece, and we loved her.
Amber Hall's family has been trying to get to the bottom of a mystery.
It's been a total mess. I've been so upset. Well, actually, the whole family, we've just been so upset. We're in shock.
A mystery that started with Amber's ambulance ride to Audubon Hospital September 6th and ended September 8th when she was found dead at the bus stop near the main entrance.
She woke up and her stomach was hurting, and she said she was having problems breathing later in the day, and she went to Audubon Hospital by ambulance. She was out in the waiting room for 8 hours before they took her back. And I spoke with her all day long that day, off and on, off and on.
Believing she had been admitted, they never heard from her the next day. Then the following morning, September 8th, a visit from the coroner.
And the coroner said they found her at 7:30 a.m. Friday morning deceased, but said that she had been dead for a while.
They say all the hospital would tell them was Amber had been discharged. They put up a poster seeking witnesses at the bus stop where she was found dead.
And we saw two guys walking from the bus stop to the van. pushing an empty wheelchair.
And there was somebody wrapped up in a blanket in the corner of leaning up against the side of the bus stop.
These two witnesses came forward who don't want to be identified out of fear of retaliation. They were driving by the bus stop at dusk when they say they saw security guards putting a wheelchair back into a van marked hospital security.
They got in the van very fast. He just threw that wheelchair in the back, hit the button, and when it popped back up, they still drove off.
Which suggests to you that they
wanted to get away from the bus stop as fast as possible.
The next morning, they snapped these photos of the commotion around the bus stop death from the hospital room of the patient they were visiting.
It's sad. I wish I could have done more. I wish I
would have done more.
Yeah, I wish I would have done more. I mean, maybe when I seen them pushing the empty wheelchair, ask questions, take more pictures, checked on them.
And once the witness came forward about her being dumped at the bus stop, it opened our eyes about a lot, and they didn't admit to doing that until we went in and told them that we had a witness that saw what they did with a little 90-pound girl, and if she was in good condition, why would you need a wheelchair to take her down there, and why would it take two of you all to put her in the van to take her down there?
They say when Amber doesn't take her liver disease medication lactulose, she suffers an ammonia imbalance in her blood and becomes incoherent. So if she went that long without it, it would have left her dangerously delirious.
It's so sad to sit there and die alone in that way and just have somebody shove you out of the hospital somewhere that you're going for help. I can't even imagine what she was thinking, if she was even in her right mind.
It appears she wasn't in her right mind. We requested the coroner's report, which listed Amber's cause of death as acute and chronic substance abuse. She had a blood alcohol level of 0.33% and a slightly higher than therapeutic dose level of tramadol, an opioid used to treat severe pain. The family wonders how she got booze after being taken by wheelchair to the same bus stop where she was found dead. Did she drink herself to death, incoherent from ammonia buildup out of despair of not being treated, in severe pain? Norton Hospital's public relations director responded to all this in an email. Discharging a patient who no longer needs emergency medical or inpatient care is not patient dumping. Emergency room beds are needed for patients who require these levels of care. Our thoughts and prayers are with the family during this difficult time. Due to privacy laws, we are not able to comment on a specific patient's care. We can tell you that patients are discharged from the emergency department once a provider examines the patient, provides necessary medical treatment, and determines that inpatient hospitalization is unnecessary. I shared the hospital statement with the family. It didn't wipe away the tears.
Her smile,
her laughter.
and every time she would leave, no matter what, even if it was for an hour, she would always say, "I love you" to everyone.
I'm a cancer survivor, and I'm like home and disabled, and she's just there with me every day. I really miss her.
It's just so sad that they treat people that way.
I think they didn't want to treat her because they thought she was a frequent flyer, and they just, wanted to get rid of her. It's like they dumped their garbage on the streets. Like they took their garbage to the curb and just left it there.
Now, the family has retained the attorney that I interviewed in my first report on this issue, Hans Poppy, who recently won a $2.3 million patient dumping verdict in Kentucky. I called him last week. He has no comment yet because he's still compiling information. I'll keep you posted. And I have another report coming up on this issue as soon as I get a response from the hospital that's involved in that one.